Okay, we are dissecting the heart of a deer. So this is the front of the heart. Only focus on the heart. The front of the heart, we call this the apex. The two top chambers you can see there is the receiving chambers from the heart. Please stand still. The receiving chambers of the heart, and that is called the atriums. This is the front of the heart. If you hold the heart in front of you, this will be the right side of the heart and the left side of the heart. So this will be your right atrium, left atrium. This part is your right ventricle and the left ventricle. So blood comes from the top part of the body and the bottom part of the body, all oxygen poor, because the body has used up all the oxygen, and it goes into the right chamber of the heart. The right atrium. Through the right atrium, it will go through a valve called the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it would get pumped through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, where it will have gas exchange and receive new oxygen. Now that there's oxygen in the blood, it's going to come back to the heart. It comes back from the heart, from the lungs, through two veins on from each lung, into the left atrium. From the left atrium, it will go through a valve into the left ventricle, which is the biggest part, and from the left ventricle, it gets pushed through the aorta to the rest of the body. When we dissected this deer's heart, we started on the left side of the heart, and we cut the left side of the heart open to show how thick the muscle is of the left ventricle, because the left ventricle is the strongest pump in the heart, and that's why it needs such a thick muscle. We've cut through it, and what you can see is how thick the muscle is of the ventricle. You can also see this is the atrium, left ventricle, and you can see the valve, the mitral valve in the left atrium. Between the left atrium and the left ventricle is the mitral valve. You can also see these little muscles that keeps the valve, it helps the valve function as it contracts. As the ventricle contracts, it pulls the muscles down and it closes the valve. As it relaxes, it ejects again. Something like that. So this is your mitral valve, and that is the left side of the heart. If you look at the aorta, I'm going to put my finger through the aorta, and it will come out from the left ventricle. So blood will come from the left atrium, through the valve, into the left ventricle, from the left ventricle out here to the aorta. So this is the aorta. The aorta is much thicker and stronger. Can you please stand still? Much thicker and stronger, the aorta. Okay? So left ventricle. Now, if we look at the heart and we look at the right side, we have now dissected the right side of the heart, and we've only cut through the ventricle, the right ventricle. So that you can see, if we put our finger through the pulmonary artery, it comes out in the right ventricle. So blood will come from the right ventricle. Oxygen poor blood will come from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery to the lungs. So if we trace the blood flow now of the heart, the blood flow of the heart, blood comes from the body through the right atrium. Can you see the right atrium here? Through the right atrium into the ventricles, from the right ventricle through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, from the lungs to the left atrium, into the left atrium, into the left ventricle, from the left ventricle out the aorta. This is the back of the heart, where you can see the aorta and the pulmonary artery. You can also see the veins of the heart. So the heart is a muscle that needs oxygen itself. At the root of the aorta is some coronary arteries that comes out of the root of the aorta. So when blood gets ejected through the aorta, the first organ that gets blood is the heart. The coronary arteries comes off of the aorta, separates and split over the heart. I also want to show you the very strong septum between the right ventricle and the left ventricle. Can you see how good this is? If I hold it like this, can you see the septum in the middle? The thick muscle.
I can do it.
Can you see this thick muscle?
Yeah, the thick one.
The thick muscle between the right
here.
Yeah. That is the septum. The heart that divides the heart sort of in the right side and the left side. So this side is right side, this side is left side. And you can see the septum just dividing the heart there. Can you see that?
So this here is a septum.
Yeah, that's the septum. Aorta, pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery is much more floppier than the aorta. So the atriums is much smaller than what you would think, but they're just the receiving chambers of the heart. The ventricles are the ones that does the huge job, that needs to have strong muscles to pump the blood either to the lungs or to the rest of the body. Bottom part is called the apex of the heart. And all this thick white business that you can see, that is fat of the heart. So we will go now and cut right through the heart so we can open the whole thing. Okay.
And that's my teacher.
Thank you.